Ahoy there! Since I started streaming, I've often been asked what got me into the Densha de Go series, so I thought I'd put together a video outlining some of that story. For me, it all started with the Nintendo 64. In 2020, the N64 was the only retro console I owned, and it's a system with a rather small library. I found myself curious to know more about what N64 games were only released in Japan. After doing a bit of digging, I stumbled upon an article describing Densha de Go 64, which was released in Japan in 1999 as part of Taito's iconic train simulation franchise.
Densha de Go!
Now, at this point, I didn't know anything about the Densha de Go series, or how huge it was in Japan from the mid to late 90s to the early aughts. What piqued my interest was the sheer novelty of playing a train simulator on the Nintendo 64. As much as I loved the N64 as a multiplayer system to enjoy with friends, it didn't do a whole lot for me on the solo gaming front. And although I could be mistaken, aside from Pilot Wing 64, I don't recall seeing many simulator games on the system. Now, there's another part of the train simulator element that drew me in, and here's where I need to backtrack a bit. I've loved the idea of train travel since I was a kid, and I owe that to picking up The Last Express shortly after its release in 1997. Set on the Orient Express right before the outbreak of World War I, this point-and-click adventure game almost single-handedly sparked my love of history and train travel. Playing The Last Express changed the course of my life, and inspired me to go on numerous railroading adventures when I could have just as easily caught a plane. So, needless to say, I was an easy target for Densha de Go 64 when it fell on my radar. Although trying Densha de Go 64 was fun, I soon discovered a more immersive way to experience the game, with Taito's exclusive train controller. These controllers are the most striking hallmark of the series. Sure, they may be a bit bulky, but their intuitive and eye-catching designs are a big part of what makes Densha de Go so enjoyable in the first place. The N64 Densha de Go controllers, no exception. This one's pretty similar to the earlier PlayStation train controller and includes separate handles for braking and acceleration. Not only does the controller handle great, it offers an easy visual cue if you ever feel lost operating the train. What's that indentation in the middle, you ask? That's replacing one of the game's trusty pocket watches. I didn't track any of these down until a couple of years into my Densha de Go journey, and they don't serve any functional purpose, at least for me, but there's no denying their aesthetic charm. Once I started playing Densha de Go 64 with the train controller, everything seemed to fall into place. These games are strict. It's not about getting to the last stop as quickly as possible. The goal is to operate the train safely and on schedule. That means following all signals and stopping within a designated area. My new controller made this seem much easier. I soon went from failing almost every route to 1 credit clears. But it turns out the train controller was just the tip of the immersion iceberg when it comes to Densha de Go 64.
Depart.
The game's one of only 2 titles for the Nintendo 64 that was released with voice recognition support. After doing a bit more digging online, I learned that just a few years earlier, Zoinkity had released an English translation patch for Densha de Go 64. The patch translates the heads-up display and menus from Japanese, and even includes English voice recognition support. I patched a Densha de Go 64 ROM and loaded it onto my flash card. Playing Densha de Go 64 with the voice recognition unit felt like taking the game to another level. With voice recognition enabled, the player earns points for calling out the various train signals. It's another way the game replicates the experience of operating a Japanese train. And much to my surprise, the voice recognition unit did a decent job in deciphering my garbled speech. With my fully kitted out Densha de Go 64 setup, I became hooked. I started mastering a few of the routes. I even introduced the game to my partner and some of my friends. In case you're wondering how that part went, some took to it and others didn't. And it wasn't long before I started streaming Densha de Go 64 on Twitch. This allowed me to showcase the game to a new audience, and bring in a few like-minded fans of the series. In my first year and a half on Twitch, I played a lot of Densha de Go 64, probably too much in fact. I started to wonder if I should broaden my horizons and track down some other games in the series. I'd already tried an English translation of Densha de Go Final for PC, but without a train controller, it just wasn't the same experience. Thankfully, in the fall of 2024, my partner and I traveled to Japan for the first time. My hope was that, in between our planned outings, I'd have the chance to browse through a couple of retro video game stores and maybe find some Densha de goodies. In preparation, about a week before the trip, I purchased a modified PlayStation 2 that could play Japanese discs, so I was ready for anything Densha related on the system. The lifespan of the PlayStation 2 falls largely within Densha de Go's heyday. In fact, there are a whopping 6 Densha de Go games on the system, which speaks to the massive popularity of the series in Japan during this time. While in Japan, we were so focused on sightseeing that I didn't visit any retro game shops until close to the end of our trip. But I have to say the novelty of riding the Shinkansen and some of the routes from the Densha de Go series, like Tokyo's Yamanote line, felt surreal. And on our first night in Tokyo, I found an arcade version of Densha de Go at a Mikado Game Center in Takadanobaba. Playing that was delightful. During our last few days in Tokyo, we popped into Retro Game Camp in Akihabara. This place was fantastic, with 2 solid floors of retro goodness. I was about to give up on finding anything Densha de Go related until something caught my eye on a bottom shelf. There it was in all its glory, the Densha de Go Type 2 controller for the PlayStation 2, and at an affordable price too. I didn't see any games though. I asked a staff member for help and they pulled up a copy of Densha de Go Final, also on PS2, for me. I was ecstatic. I felt like I'd hit pay dirt. I'm grateful to Retro Game Camp, and to that staffer in particular, for giving me such a special moment to close out our first trip to Japan. Back home, I soon added Densha de Go Final and the Type 2 controller to my Twitch rotation. Featuring a door light and force feedback, this controller felt like a huge upgrade to my N64 rig. During this time, I even found a Densha de Go controller for the PlayStation 1. And with my modified PlayStation 2 and its backwards compatibility, plus a host of other Densha games to find, the floodgates were open. Within a few months, I couldn't resist temptation and bought Densha de Go Rejohen and its corresponding controller. I love this game's focus on light rail, and the controller's design feels totally unique for the series. This gorgeous streetcar setup includes air brakes, which added a whole new challenge for me after logging myriad hours with Densha de Go 64 and Final. I also enjoyed the satisfaction of manually opening and closing the doors. It's all in the details, right? Japan soon came calling to us again, though. After just over a year, my partner and I made our way back to Tokyo, with a few extra stops along the way. This trip was a bit different, as we flew a lot, but we had fun riding the gorgeous Nagasaki streetcars, and even took a ferry to Ainoshima Island, near Fukuoka. While we may not have taken the Shinkansen on this trip, riding the Enoshima Electric Railway from Fujisawa to Kamakura, as depicted in Densha de Go Rejohen, was an absolute joy. I was also a bit more proactive in seeking out retro game stores, and all that legwork paid off. Whether it was in Kamakura, Fukuoka, or Tokyo, I seemed to be spotting Densha games everywhere, and I came back with 4 new titles for my budding collection. Another real highlight of our vacation was finding the 2017 Densha de Go arcade game. This one eluded me on our first trip, but not this time. I played a compact version of the game in Tokyo. Then in Fukuoka we hit the mother lode, a full-size Densha de Go cabinet. I could hardly believe it. What a treat that was to play. And I'm thankful my partner encouraged me to check it out and documented the experience for me. Between these Densha arcade sessions and the new games in my collection, I left Japan with my heart feeling pretty darn full. But wait, there's more. The most recent addition to my collection's the extraordinary Densha de Go Shinkansen controller. It's not my favorite game in the series, as the scenery can get a bit repetitive, but this might be the most impressive Densha controller ever released. Yes, it's got a door light and force feedback, like the Densha de Go Final controller, but the real piece de resistance is the speedometer and automatic train control, or ATC, readout. To my knowledge, it's the only controller in the series that sports this deluxe feature. Finally getting my hands on one of these controllers felt incredible, and you can expect to see more of that bad boy here and on my Twitch channel. Well, that pretty much brings us up to date, so I think I'll leave it here for now. However, my work's only just begun. There's still plenty of more Densha collectibles and games in the series out there for me. So where do I go from here? Well, I'd love to eventually get Densha de Go for the Nintendo Switch, along with the Zoiki controller, and I've always got my eye on the possibility of, someday, landing a Densha de Go arcade game to call my own. If anybody out there has got any leads on one in Canada, please let me know. If you've ever watched one of my videos here on YouTube or seen me stream on Twitch, thank you very much. Whether you're lurking or chatting, I always appreciate your company, and I hope to see you again soon. Until next time, take care and goodbye.